Welcome back. Well, today we are looking at the Sodom and Gomorrah. And we're going to be taking a look at an article that was done by Miss Usato on Avoid JW. Very well done. Looking at what we used to believe before as Jehovah's Witnesses, what we believed about Sodom and Gomorrah, what the organization taught us for all these years. Well, this year, they changed their minds. It's a whole different story. Well, let's look. This is what got this whole thing going, is the annual meeting. And let's take a look at the annual meeting, what was said. I'm just going to get that up on the screen here.
Acquainted with Jehovah.
Here
We
it
can
is.
hardly imagine him asking the same question later when he knew Jehovah much better.
Okay, we got this set up here. So we're going to look at the annual meeting, the 2023 annual meeting. This is where David Splain gets up and tells everyone that, hey, there might be a resurrection. We don't know. We don't have the answers. So it's like this is a flip-flop from what we've been taught. I've been in it for 30 years. I was taught something completely different. So let's see what David Splain says. We'll watch about 2 minutes of this.
Question. Maybe when you were just coming into the truth, have you ever asked, for example, will none of those who died in the flood get a resurrection? Even those who may never have heard of Noah? And what about Sodom and Gomorrah? Will everyone who died in Sodom and Gomorrah sleep an everlasting sleep? The women, the children, babies. And was there not one redeemable Assyrian soldier in that band of 185,000 who died at the hand of Jehovah's angel? We don't have the answer to those questions. But we do know one thing. The merciful judge of all the earth will do what is right. Wait a minute. Did I hear that right? We don't have the answer to those questions? I thought we did. In the past, our publications have stated that there's no hope of a resurrection for those who died in the flood or those destroyed in Sodom and Gomorrah. But do we really know that? The men of Sodom and Gomorrah were certainly wicked, and they deserved to die for what they did. But did they know any better? How often did Lot and his family preach to them? And are we saying that if special pioneers had been assigned to Sodom, that they would have had no success whatsoever in preaching to the Sodomites, helping them to turn around and come to a knowledge of Jehovah? Can we say dogmatically that not one Sodomite would have repented if Jehovah's requirements have been explained? And then there's the fascinating statement made by Jesus, found at Matthew chapter 11. I'll give you a moment. Matthew chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 23 and 24. This is interesting. Matthew 11, 23 and 24. And you, Capernaum, will you perhaps be exalted to heaven? Down to the grave you will come. Because, and notice this, if the powerful works that took place in you had taken place in Sodom, it would have remained until this very day. But I say to you, it will be more endurable for the land of Sodom on Judgment Day than for you. It would have remained until this very day. Jehovah's angel had told Abraham that if 10 righteous men could be found in Sodom, the city would not be destroyed. So was Jesus saying that if he had preached and performed powerful works in Sodom, 10 righteous men would have been found, and the city would have been spared?
Okay. So that's about all we're going to run on that. For many of us out there, we've seen this annual meeting. We've heard it, and now we're sitting back and we're digesting it. And it leads to a lot of questions, because I know I was taught and convinced that I had to stay in this organization, and they kept using these examples of all how Jehovah killed people. It almost looks like David Splain's questioning Jehovah's right to kill these people, because it's like David Splain saying, if we would have sent missionaries in, I'm sure we could have saved more people. So to me, this is just kind of a BS thing, because why would Jehovah, the God of the universe, not have sent more people in? Like, he's the God of the universe, supposedly, right? Why would he have not done that? But yet we look at Jesus, and Jesus is talking about Capernaum. Well, that's his hometown, or one of his hometowns. Capernaum was an ancient city on the northwest shore of the Sea of Galilee, and it was Jesus' second home, and during the period of his life. They call it a garrison town and an administrative town, custom station. So Jesus chose his disciples, Peter, Andrew, and Matthew, from Capernaum, and performed many miracles there. Now, Jesus' preachment in Capernaum was rejected. The people rejected him. Why? Because the son of Joseph, the carpenter, declared himself to be the bread of life, sent down from heaven. So the people, his friends, they knew him. Well, how could the son of a carpenter be this guy? How could he be the king, right? So they rejected him. And out of these episodes of rejection came Jesus' lamentation that the prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and his own house. And maybe that's why he said that, and you, Capernaum, you will be exalted to heaven, you'll be brought down to Hades. So he asked them a question, and you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? He says, no, you will be brought down to Hades. For if the mighty works done in you had been done in Sodom, so in other words, if Jesus was in Capernaum preaching to them, and he's saying if the mighty works of that would have been done in Sodom, what does he say? I tell you that there'd be more tolerable in the day of judgment for the land of Sodom, because Jesus had went in there. So that's why David Splain's saying, if we would have sent missionaries in, just like Jesus going in, I'm sure we could have saved people. But what does this tell me? It tells me that maybe Jesus didn't like that judgment in Sodom. He thought it was a little harsh, a little quick. And that's why he's saying that there's going to be a resurrection. It's going to be a harsher judgment for Capernaum, because they had Jesus right there in front of them, the Son of God. But Sodom didn't have that. That's what he's saying. So they might have a better judgment than his own hometown. So that's what the Bible says. Now we're going to go look at Void JW, and we're going to see how they iron this out. I like the little story they do at the beginning. So they call it the damned and the worthy. So let's read this. A sudden birth of pyrocumulus clouds. So that's a fire cloud, right? Pyro for fire, cumulus cloud. Creates a smoke screen around your surrounding. Your vision is lost by the sting of polluted air. Between the ear-splitting screams of friends and family, your home destroyed around you, the sounds of voices nearby coaxing you to come near seems to be your only hope of being saved. Are the voices God, or is this man? The pagan city of Sodom and Gomorrah has been referenced on the Watchtower organization's site, JW.org, in their publications, videos, dramas, and hundreds of times since the organization began. It's become a cornerstone concept, infused with warnings on the dangers of disobeying Jehovah. This article goes into the damned city and how new interpretations can shake the pillars of this organization. The Jehovah's Witness organization created an example out of Sodom and Gomorrah, mainly through three significant lessons. So we're going to take a look at that. 1975, why be hospitable? Being too prideful, selfish. It's the absence, as illustrated in the case of the inhabitants of Gibeah and Sodom, can give rise to the acts of extreme selfishness. Number 2, homosexuality. Lot's neighbors in Sodom were gross sinners against Jehovah. They were depraved homosexuals from boy to old man. Watchtower, 1984, Why Hesitate, Listen, and Obey. The wife of Lot. They must have been very sad that Lot's wife had disobeyed, but they were glad that they had listened to Jehovah's instructions. Remember the wife of Lot. Lessons you can learn from the Bible. Lessons 10. This organization, or the organization's teachings, everlasting fire, symbolizes the same thing as Gehenna, namely the second death. So here it is, the summary of Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, it starts in Genesis 13, though I won't go into the entire timeline of events that reached into the city's demise. The questions that have been answered throughout the organization's doctrines circle to: will the people of Sodom and Gomorrah be redeemed? Is their fate sealed? Will they be resurrected into paradise or stay with their everlasting doom? Well, the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures goes into how Abraham attempted to make a deal with God, the one that could read hearts, that if he could just find 10 good people in the city, including children and babies, that they would be spared. One day, Lot, Abraham's nephew, once a foreigner but invited to Sodom and Gomorrah to live, was met with 2 angels that came into the city. And the city, according to Watchtower's teachings, was known for its materialistic pleasures, selfish ways, homosexuality. The angels were persuaded by Lot to stay with him, giving them clothes, food, and a place to sleep. And when the men from the city found out that there were strangers at Lot's house, they came banging on his door, demanding for the men to be sent out. And Sodom and Gomorrah, like all cities, have rules. The context about the intentions of the men knocking on Lot's door is based on many different understandings of Bible translations. Now, we're going to look at the New World Translation of the Sodomites and the ties with homosexuality. Genesis 19, 4-5 reads, "Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, 'Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them.'" The fact that homosexuality is never mentioned in this passage, nor a word of it in the Bible, is already a keynote of how religious leaders change scriptural meanings to fit their narrative. The New World Translation translates it into the man of the city wanting to have sex with them. Therefore, the city was filled with homosexuals. And this has been the question in the air with other Christian religions, if the city was destroyed by homosexual tendencies or because of their selfish pride. Other translations of the scriptures read, "Know them," instead of "so we can have sex with them." Therefore, stemming from this came the Sodomites, sodomite being a person who engages in sodomy. Now, what I couldn't figure out, and I've read this many times, I couldn't figure out, here, these are angels in your house. These are God's angels. Why would you have to send your daughters out for the men to have sex with them? Like, that's what Lot offered. Like, why would you do that, a God-fearing man? Like, I've always had that question. Let's see if the answer's in here. Instead of Lot sending angels out, or these angels instantly using their powers, Lot first offered his daughters, his property, who were virgins, for them to take instead. Only then after this, the angels caused blindness to all the men, young and old, outside the house. Oh, okay, that's how they dealt with it. Their immoral behavior was so extreme that even when they were miraculously struck with blindness, they were wearing themselves out trying to find the entrance of the house to get inside to have intercourse with Lot's visitors. Genesis 19, 4-11. Will such terribly wicked persons be resurrected during Judgment Day? The scriptures indicate apparently they will not. And this is from You Can Live Forever in a Paradise on Earth, 1989, pages 178-79. That's what I was taught. I was studied within the Live Forever book. So you remember the wife of Lot? This is a picture, a screenshot. This is a screenshot from a 3-part segment, Remember the Wife of Lot, from jw.org. So that's what they drew. Now, the angels, viewing the city as a whole to be wicked, told Lot to grab his family and run out of the city, for the promise between Abraham and God was being broken. Lot attempted to tell the rest of his extended family in the city that this destruction was about to occur. But to sum it up, they thought he was joking, and most likely that he had gone mad. understandably. The angels, taking Lot's wife and daughter's hands, helped them flee the city as Lot pleaded for the angels to allow them to go to the nearby town of Zoar instead of fleeing to the mountains. And in brackets it says, Q, to the hills are alive with the sound of destruction. Yet as Lot's family were leaving, Lot's wife looked back on the destruction of her home, her city, and instantly became a pillar of salt. And in the scriptures, they recover from the loss of their mother, Lot's wife, rather quickly. She isn't mentioned again. On JW.org, though, there is an entire 3-part segment on the selfish and materialistic ways of the wife of Lot, who was not named in the scripture. So it's amazing how, JW.org will pick up just little pieces like that, and they will just make a whole movie out of it. They'll make a whole assembly out of stuff like this, if it suits their narrative, you see. So now they've changed it. So now, a rain of fire and sulfur fell from the sky, destroying those deemed by what the organization calls the gross ones, exceedingly grave and wicked ones. And the fear of being destroyed this way is one of the nightmares, one that is a normality for Jehovah's Witness adolescents that were read to before bed from my book of Bible stories. And isn't that the truth here? I'm glad that Miss Usanto brought this out, because we read this stuff to our kids. I used to have the Bible stories tapes. I'd put them in and they'd play all the way through. We'd brainwash our kids with this stuff. So it's terrible. It's terrible. Now, Lot and his wife and his daughter's story continues with even more vile occurrences than the entire destruction of the city for greater good. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses instill these lessons. What do we learn from Jehovah's action regarding Sodom and Gomorrah? Well, Jehovah will not indefinitely tolerate wickedness. And those who survive the coming judgment will be those who pay attention to God's will and do it. Ask yourselves, does the brazen conduct of this wicked world distress me? 2 Peter 2 and 7. Does my daily life show that doing Jehovah's will is the most important to me? And I don't think that's what 2 Peter 2 and 7 says. I can look at it. Yeah, so 2 Peter 2 and 7 is not a question. It just says, and he rescued righteous Lot, who was greatly distressed by the brazen conduct of the lawless people. So it just shows that Jehovah rescued him. Okay, so that was taken from Treasures from God's Word, 02-2020. So this is quite recent, 2020. It's only a few years old. So Jehovah's Witnesses, like many other Christian denominations, interpret the account of Sodom and Gomorrah and use it as a warning example for a few things: on having wicked and immoral behavior, a materialistic mindset, or homosexuality tendencies. Now, the New Testament, Ezekiel 16, verse 49, reads that God has removed from them as I saw it, insinuating that the people of the city had an abundance of materialistic things, being haughty, therefore they were to be destroyed. In Matthew 10 and 15, Jesus, to his apostles, specifically referenced Sodom and Gomorrah as being unwelcoming, saying the judgments of God would be worse than the city. And the story is often cited as an example of God's justice about the consequences of disobedience to divine principles. And as a lesson viewed in talks and publications, the organization emphasizes the importance of moral conduct. Obedience to God's standards is outlined in the Bible, not to be like those who had died in the flood or in Sodom and Gomorrah. So Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities furnished a warning example by undergoing Jehovah God's judicial punishment of everlasting fire or eternal destruction. And that's from the Watchtower 08-18-1982, talking about this eternal destruction. So this is just proving what we were programmed to believe just yesterday, before the 2023 annual meeting. This is what we believed. So this is from Russell's photodrama of creation, I guess, these here pictures. So they were making all these scary pictures way back then to scare kids and people into joining. So just to give you an idea how often the organization has changed their mind on this Sodom and Gomorrah thing, I thought this was interesting. Really good work by Miss Usato. Watchtower of 1879, July 1st, page 8 says, yes, they will be resurrected. Sodom and Gomorrah. So J.W. Org went right back this year to Russell's teachings. And isn't it interesting, this year they accepted Russell's beard? And isn't it interesting that they threw away Ruther's time counting tickets? Russell didn't have that. So it's almost like this religion's going full circle. But is it? Well, let's just take a look. They've changed their minds more than that. So Russell said, yes, they will be resurrected. That's what he said back in 1879. He read the Bible the same way as anybody else reads it. Now, Studies in the Scriptures, Series 5, 1886, Russell. I don't know what that's about. Maybe that's where this is from. Page 8, Studies from the Scriptures. That Russell said yes. So if you want to reference it, I'll clip this to the description here so you can look at this. If you want to further research it, you can. Now, Armageddon, the greatest battle of all time, who will survive? 1937, Rutherford, to say they would be unscriptural. So now they're changing it to be unscriptural to say they'd survive. Then in 1913, their fate is not sealed. Now it's not sealed, right? It's changed. Watchtower 1920. Now we're going to change. Yes, they will be resurrected. Oh, wait a minute. The Harp of God, 1927. Yes, they will be resurrected. Well, a few years goes by, 10 years, 11 years. Salvation, 1939. Rutherford, he says, no, there's no support in the Scriptures for that answer. So he said no, 1939. Watchtower, 1941. No, they won't be resurrected. They agree. Watchtower, 1952. No. Watchtower 54, no. Watchtower 65, maybe they will be resurrected. So there's a lot of no's, and then maybes. And then, well, a few years later, 2 years later, 67, they said no, they're not going to be resurrected. Awake, 1974. Yes, they will be resurrected. Remember, stay alive till 75. They're going to be resurrected next year. That's what they thought. Insight on the Scriptures, 1978. Some will be resurrected. Watchtower 1988, June 1st. Some will be resurrected. Watchtower 1990. No, they will not be resurrected. Watchtower 2005. Nope, no resurrection. Sorry, guys. Annual meeting talk, October 7th, 2023. Trust in the merciful judge on earth. We just don't know. Remember that? I think that was Jeffrey Jackson. And we just heard David explain what he said. Watchtower, July 8th, 2024. We just don't know. So there you have it, folks. This organization changes its mind almost every second year. Crazy, eh? Okay, well, let's carry on. Since the mid-1800s, this organization has changed its outlook on the results of the people on Sodom and Gomorrah over 20 times. And that's only the referenced in the publications, not including broadcasts, dramas, videos, and so forth. And I remember as a JW, every time we'd go to the assembly in the summer, they'd almost always bring up Sodom and Gomorrah. They'd throw that in our face all the time. All the time. So there it is in the Bible. In the photodrama of Creation 1914, Charles Russell, the founder of the organization, stated that Sodomites would have the privilege of returning to human perfection, and that all who do not receive a knowledge of God in the present life are to have the opportunity during Messiah's reign. So now, interpretations are swirled together once again to a new true prophecy of the Scriptures. The new light was announced at the annual meeting of 2023 and officially in writing, the May 2024 magazine study edition for their members in the congregation meetings for July and August. So I'm not going to get into it. It's pretty small print here, but you can see they have the Watchtower's pulled out here in this article. This is the study article for August 24th, 2024. And trust in the merciful judge of the earth. So this is August 24th, 2024. And that is coming up. They haven't studied this yet. So a lot of these articles come up in advance. And you can study in advance. Just get them off their website. So now, on October 7th, 2023, at the annual meeting, the governing body member David Splain's talk, Trust in the Merciful Judge of All Earth, went into Sodom and Gomorrah, stating instead of the doom and hopeless state of the people that they had previously prophesied, now they simply do not know if there will be people from Sodom and Gomorrah resurrected and have a chance of being redeemed of sin. They don't know. Wait a minute, did I hear that right? We don't have the answer to these questions? I thought we did. David Splain. It boils down to the governing body stating that through further prayerful study, Jehovah's judgments are beyond human understanding. And there now have been recent clarifications and adjustments to the understanding of the resurrection of life, the resurrection of judgment, based on John 5:28 and 29. So now, there may be hope again. One has to think, how many times will it take to change doctrines until it doesn't make sense for the governing body to know the true answer? Unapologetically, in the governing body's lifespan, they have had to announce a new outlook or a perspective or an understanding of the scriptures many times, many times. And while doing so, the consequences of having a different perspective not aligned with the teachings at the time have caused many to be shunned from the organization. So a year ago, if you started talking, well, I think some from Sodom and Gomorrah will get resurrected, a year ago you could have been shunned for that. But now it's okay, I guess. Governing body said it. Now, points about this new life. One thing that does seem blatantly clear is the lack of knowledge. And for one direct channel of God, as a governing body has stated before, God knows how to keep things uncertain. It seems like that, doesn't it? Jehovah just is full of surprises for the organization. Now, no universal preaching. May 2024 article also compares a change to Noah's time, pointing out that while Noah was a preacher of righteousness, the Bible does not explicitly state that he tried to reach every individual on earth. So now the Watchtower is saying, yeah, we don't have to reach everyone. And similarly, it questions whether everyone in the nations of Canaan had the opportunity to learn about Jehovah and change their ways. And this is very different than the numerous accounts, again, articles, videos, and dramas the organization has depicted on how we are to preach in every part of the earth. So that's another change, slight of hand. You see it? They just keep dishing out these sleight of hand changes. And then next year, new people come in. They don't know the difference. They don't know that there's been all these changes. They just look at the main website. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. It's a good organization to be in. You see, I think they're bringing this organization to a point where they're trying to make it more acceptable for people to come in. You know, even ones that are homosexual, gay, lesbian. So maybe they want to open it up more, get more people coming back. I'm not sure. Now, back to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, the Watchtower questions whether all the wicked residents had the chance to hear about Jehovah and change their ways, highlighting that a crowd in the city sought to harm Lot's guests. The angels, ranging from boy to old man, there could be a possibility that they had a lack of universal knowledge or understanding. The organization site has 767 pages regarding this topic, all now boil down to the lesson of this Bible passage as unknown. So you imagine that there was 767 pages of stuff on Sodom and Gomorrah stuffed into the Watchtowers. And now we don't know. Interesting. Now, hope of a resurrection. This is our last paragraph, hope of a resurrection. The now unknown raises many more questions, leaving the air filled with confusion for Jehovah's Witnesses. Has Jehovah This merciful God condemned each individual in Sodom and Gomorrah to a catastrophic execution of a pyrocumulus cloud of sulfur and fire with no hope of a resurrection? Yes? No? Maybe? Maybe so? We just don't know. What about all of the past teachings linked to the city's destruction? God assured Abraham that there were not even 10 righteous men in the city, but it stopped short of definitely stating that none of them would have a chance in the resurrection of the unrighteous. So that's the end of the article. We are going to be running a few more articles that Miss Usato has written. She's a very good writer. So thanks again for that, Miss Usato. And I hope this helped you guys as the audience to realize that this organization is like this. It's a flip-flop. It really doesn't know. But they'll shun you if you go against what they say. Like yesterday, they will shun you. So that's what's interesting. Well, thanks again, folks. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. And until then, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.